All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is December 16th, 2019. This is a Monday night webinar, and the title of tonight's webinar is How to Trade Viper the Right Way. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, forex trading, any kind of financial instrument trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started then. Bear with me a second. I don't know if anybody took a mid-band trade on crude. I don't this time of night, but it set itself up pretty good. All right, what I want to show you first off, and I went ahead and mocked up a little chart here with lightning 1, 2, and 3, because, you know, even though people have been with us for a while or whatever, you know, it doesn't hurt to refresh on something like this, because on your charts, keep in mind, you've always got 3 trends, and then you've got a fourth one that's actually your real overall trend. But these lightning 1, 2, and 3 are extremely important, okay, and how you trade. To give you an example, you know, I did this one just like this little chart that I've got over here. You know, I've showed this one before, but you can't really draw on it as easily. So I want to do this one. It's actually where I can draw on it and everything. I want to just show everybody something here that I think will make a lot of sense. Okay, I tried to do this to where these were all 3 basically the same height and everything. I think this one's actually a little off, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and raise it up just a little bit more. About something like that, and then bring it down here like that. All right, so they're really, really close. Yeah, they're really close to the same thing. Now, what I want to show you here, though, is, you know, a lot of people constantly asking, especially new people, you know, where's your stop on this thing? You know, well, first off, you know, when I call a trade, I also call these targets out, which I think are really important to get, you know, because if you traded oil today, for example, and did, you know, a really loose retracement, like all the way to mid-band, I mean, they didn't go anywhere today. You had to take the trade in bites. You had to take, you know, 1, 2, 3. There was even a fourth one, I think, or even a fifth one after we closed the room down. And you got to really, you know, train your eye to see those. And I'm going to show that here in a few minutes because, you know, when these lines are drawn on that chart and they don't go through them with a vengeance, you got to protect that coin. Okay, at least with lightning. Okay, now this is why this is so important with lightning, in my opinion. Let's say that I had called a trade down in here just for the fun of it. Let's just say that, you know, we had boxed in a trade and we had gotten a nice trade and everything's going great with the trade. Okay, but we've actually also got a target on it. Okay, let's say that this is drawn at 72.50. I had to get it out of the way of all the other stuff, so I just, you know, moved it way out of the way. Oil is not at this price, by the way, not even on the February contract. But let's just pretend it is, okay? Let's pretend that I said, okay, 72.50 is our target. All right, so if you get in on this box right here, and let me go ahead and just change this to a white box so you can see a little bit better. We'll go ahead and set that as our default, a little bit bigger box. Now notice that when they thrust up, as a rule, they'll come and check that box. That's just pretty standard. You know, it's amazing. They know where you're boxing these in, and they know where people are getting these retrace trades. So they try their dead level best to take you out. Now, what we like to do is we like to get, you know, a thrust, a retrace, and a thrust. And keep in mind that if you continually keep your stops under these swings, you're going to do pretty well in your trading, okay? Now, don't put it under lightning 3 because, for instance, here's a low here. Let's say that we had boxed it also. Let's say that you had seen support down here and you boxed it. Well, you're not going to let it do a big old thrust, a retrace, and then a big old thrust again. It's just not going to happen, right? Okay. Now, keep in mind that what you can do though is if you wanted to do like say a couple of contracts and you wanted to get a nice thrust and then take some coin, then you're okay to let it come back near that box. Okay, see how this one didn't quite come down to the box? That's because it's a little bit larger lightning and it might just be wicking down there to that line. Okay, but it did touch the line, you can clearly see. Okay, so that's the way I drew that. Now, to me, when we call out these targets and everything, let's say, you know, for hypothetical purposes, we called out 72.50 on crude oil on this move. Okay, can you clearly see that each time it does this thrust and retrace, a little double top, a retrace, and a bigger, you know, you have what we call the lightning identified swings. Okay, now at the time, this one was just a double top, so you didn't really have that swing at the time. You had it way down here. Okay, but as this broke this top across here, like so, like that, this identified that swing and that swing. Now I call this my primary swing and this one my secondary swing. And usually as a rule, it's in line with the lightning too, as a rule, but not always. Okay, so for instance, if you get a nice thrust up, you could either put your stop nice and tight under this swing, or you could put it under this swing. Okay, if it thrusts up again, you know, here's a high here. It broke it a little bit, so your stop's right there at your lightning swing, or back it back one more to the next swing down. Okay, if it ratchets up again, you know, you can naturally pull your stop up to, instead of that one there, you could go to that one or even that one. But keep in mind that when they start, you know, let's say for instance that the price had been at 72.50 overnight and you happen to hit 72.50 and we've called that as our target, and it doesn't go through it, but it hesitates at it, and then you start getting this little action right here. Let's say it starts doing this, coming down a little bit, then you get a lower high, like so, and then it actually takes out that swing that it just made, which is right there, but it hadn't taken out that swing right there yet. See what I mean? That's your primary swing right there, or you could tighten it right there. Okay? But if this happens to take this out, then you either get out of it or you use this stop right here. But either this stop's going to get you or this stop right here. Okay, now mid-band is all the way down in here. Now I'm going to show you oil here in just a few minutes. This is actually oil, but like I said, I just mocked it up on a chart here. Does anybody have any problems with this at all? Because it works this way on Lightning 2 and Lightning 1. And of course, Lightning 3, you want to use this more as your overall trend. You know, how's the trend doing? Well, the trend's holding Lightning 3. You know, it comes back. Let's say that this happens to hold here and shoots on up. Well, then it's holding a higher swing again. But you don't use your stop way down here, you know, once this is taken out. You just can't do that. You know, for instance, that's like a, well, in this particular case, that's a 100-tick move. So obviously you wouldn't do that. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and go to the chart. If anybody has any questions with that, please let me know. Are we trading the February contract now? Yes, Stephen, we are trading the February contract. You'll want to definitely change that for tomorrow. Let me go ahead and kill this chart. Now I'm going to show you the actual chart that oil is at the particular moment. And let's do the diagnosis on the chart just like we did. All right, this is Lightning 3. Okay, now notice we have a low, we have a high, we have a higher low, we have a higher high. And notice that they did take out this 76 to 72. And of course, you did start breaking down, obviously. So there was a nice short in here too, which I'll show you on the Lightning 2. But for all intents and purposes, also, you can actually look, you know, for instance, like right now, let's go ahead and draw this. Let's draw Lightning 2. Let's draw it from down here. Are you going to draw? There we go. All right, that's Lightning 2 right there. Okay. Now, keep in mind that Lightning 3 doesn't draw until, it does some zigzagging around and everything, because your only lightning 3 is right here. It has not done another yellow one and not done yet another green one. It will, but for right now, we're looking at lightning 2, okay? Now, if you were trading this chart right here, and you were watching this and you said, okay, I didn't catch this way down here where Gary taught, or even a trend line break or whatever, so what have I got to do, everyone? You've got to either box it in way up here, which we don't recommend. Now, let me tell you a time that I do recommend that, and I did do it this morning on ES. If you've got stair-stepping up and you have nothing on the left of that chart but fresh air, so to speak, you can box that little puppy in. Now, when you've got support down here at like 03, you don't really want to box this in, because what they'll do is they'll barely take it out and they'll pull right back to support, or they'll even pull back to this support. Okay, so if I was looking at this chart right now and deciding to trade, I would be drawing lines on my chart. Everybody see where you thrust up, you retrace, you thrust up. So let's draw a line under lightning 2. Okay, and you notice that you haven't really taken out the high here, but that is what we call a micro identified swing. Okay, now what happens if they break micro? If they break this micro, they'll go down and check this medium swing. Okay, you can pretty much take that to the bank. All right, now let's look at the actual chart and see what we'd be looking at. Okay, it's already hit this support right here once, okay, but we're retrace traders, so we've got to either wait for a retrace or we've got to wait for a thrust and a pullback. Okay, so let's see what we've got on the actual chart. This is our actual chart right here. That's the exact same chart that I was just showing. Okay, so right now you're looking like at this little predictor, to give an example, right? Okay, but we don't just take a trade willy-nilly. Okay, for instance, if I was going to take this trade, looking to the left to trade the right, I would draw a line right there, just like we do in the room. And I'm not truthfully interested in this trade unless it comes down there and touches that, or at least boxes in at mid-band. Okay, now if you want to make sure you don't get bipped into trades, the best way to do is wait for a trade to actually come at or below mid-band on a long, or at or below above mid-band on a short. Okay, these where they don't quite come to mid-band, you got to be really, really careful of. Matter of fact, if you wanted this one here, you should have already been in it on that bar close. Okay, like this bar close right here, right when it touched predictor, you're in it, but if it goes against you, I'd get out in a heartbeat. Okay, so let's see if we can get this trade. I also don't like them until they do a little ABC. Okay, if you get in the habit of watching for ABCs, you're going to do a lot better in your trading. Here's for instance an ABC, A, B, C. Okay, this is not an ABC yet. Okay, let's see. So you would take that, Gary, without hitting that line, Louis, only if I was getting up, for instance, at 4 o'clock in the morning and this touched that predictor and that bar closed up, I might jump into it with one contract. But if it came even back to my cost at that bar that went up on a closed bar, I would get out, because this, for instance, has not done an ABC, so I don't trust it. Okay, plus it barely took out the top over here to the left. See, just barely, 03 to 12. It's about 9 ticks. Now, this is a legitimate trade. Yes, the predictor's even saying that it's a legitimate trade, but the way I personally see it, I see the support down here. That's where I would draw my line in the trading room. Would be right down in here. If you get in the habit of really watching for these, for instance, like right here, let's say that you saw this. You got a high, you got a low, you got a higher high. Lightning drew the lightning 3 swing. So you draw your line and look what it did. It actually came down to it and bounced off of it. So those lightning 3s are a lot more important than just these little bitty moves back. Now, if you were going to take this trade here, for instance, I would probably more than likely have to at least take out this resistance right across this area, right? Matter of fact, until it gets out of this area here or even here, I don't think I'd be interested in that. I'd want it to pop up and retrace. Okay. Now, if this does decide to just go up, then we just missed a good trade, and that's okay with me because I'd rather wait for a thrust and a pullback right into that area if that happens. Okay. But if you really train yourself to do the ABCs, I think you'll do a lot better. See, here's even an A. Well, that's kind of an AB, but that's not what I consider it. It's like A, B, C. See how they took out the low? That's what they do. They take out those lows. Just like this one here, A, B, C. And if you draw it, you'll see it continually, and you'll make a lot better trades too if you watch for this, because this is like the A right here, and then the B, like so, to that wick. Let me just bring it back right there. And then the C will always break the A, okay, always, at least a wick, okay. See how that did an A, B, C, okay. Now, I don't mind that trade at all. This one here did an A, B, and then it didn't do a C, so then it went A, B, didn't do it. See what I mean? Then you do A, B, and it finally broke it. You got to break that A part. Let's see, the B trick shoe, Mindy. We'll go over several of those tonight because this is what I consider trading Viper the right way. Okay, because any moves that are made on these charts, you'll notice that as a rule, they're made in a thrust, retrace, thrust. That's why when I draw on the charts, for instance, I do believe that tomorrow, more than likely, oil is going to do this. They're going to do a thrust. They already did, right? They did their retrace, and they're going to more than likely do this thrust. They did not do that today, except I think they did hit 34, as a matter of fact. If I remember right, they did. So see, that did a thrust, retrace, thrust on the bigger move. Okay, because if I remember right, we got 34 later on, or 30 at least. I'm almost positive on oil. I have to look at my chart to see for sure. But okay, always watch for that though. ABC. Is this an ABC? Granted, this is what we call a minor, minimum criteria trade, and you can box it in, but it's that rule of thumb that I like. I don't like to go with it unless, it stays my direction. That is a minimum criteria trade right there, yes. This one on the left here, okay? And keep in mind that that's your first retracement too after this thing turned green. But a mid-band trade, you want to at least get that ABC, okay? Here's your other ABC right here. Let's draw it as it was really happening in real time. Okay, there's your A. Let's just get it over here to the left or the right so you can see. All right, so then it goes up a little bit like so. So you're thinking that's B, right? So you draw it in your mind or draw it on your chart. But it turns out that this wasn't, and then see it even goes higher, so you draw it up here. Now, this is like your A, your B, and your C's got to break that, at least by a tick or two. And you draw your line, and if you get something that finally breaks that, that is an ABC. Okay? Now, will you always get those? No. No, but it's a safer way to trade by far. And not only that, let's say that you're a gutsy trader and you said, you know what, if it even touches midband, I'm going to take it. Well, you notice that it went down below midband quite a bit. Okay. One thing also train yourself to do, and that is don't take midband trades if you didn't take out the top by a good amount. 60 to 60.03 is not enough. So what is this, in other words? This is not an identified swing. When you got this nice thrust up and pullback and thrust, this is not taking this out enough to make that an identified swing. This actually becomes your new identified swing right down here. Let's see, you'd be confused where to start the A. Why not use the previous, just one second, why not use the previous 60? Well, what I'm talking about, we weren't in this trade. We missed the thrust, so we had to wait for the pullback. Okay, for instance, you don't want to really get in the habit of chasing trades except certain times. The open of the market is pretty good to take a shot at it, because I did call a ES trade. Matter of fact, here's ES right here, and see, this is like 4 o'clock in the morning. But remember where I called this trade, where I think by 8 o'clock or so, right in through here, this was right in this area, and called a little breakout. And it did break out, and it went, a good 10, 12 ticks or better. So, but those type that you want to do is, if let's say that at the open of the market, the price is all the way up here, and you're thinking, wow, if this breaks up, I'm going to have to wait for a retrace. Or can you go ahead and actually take the break, as long as it's in a little consolidation patch? I'll show that to you in a few minutes, because Charles showed that on the recap. But I'll show it because we're in replay mode, so we're not even near 8:30 in the morning when we took that trade. Okay. All right, let's go back over here. Now, like I say, what I consider this to be is this is actually trading Viper the right way. Okay, because, for instance, this is actually trying to do an ABC now. See, you got an A, B. Will we break this? Or will it finally do something like, even like A, B, C? We don't know yet. Okay. Let's see, Kurt. Well, actually, the thing about, and I'm not talking about the big ABCs, we're talking about just the good retracements. This is our sweet spot for a trade right here. Remember, this is a little sweet spot for a trade. I like the mid band, and I like it, a little above it as far as that goes. Would I have taken this trade if I'd gotten up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Probably so, on that bar that went up, because it touched a predictor. Will it work out? We don't know. So far it is, but we missed it because I opened the room and it was already in it. So since it's already in it, we've got to wait for what? An A, B, C. So let's see if we can see like a little ABC. I'll speed this up about 10 or 20 times. Let's just see what it does. Remember, we're looking for an ABC. Now, would that little trade have worked out for a few ticks? Yeah. Matter of fact, that predictor, but you can't wait around for it, and you can't box it in like this. For instance, let's say that you got your resistance right here. You can't box it in that big, because what if this just pops above here and then rolls over? Because that's resistance right there on this chart right there. So could it hit its head there? It could. Let's see, please explain, don't take mid-bands if they don't take out the high. Jerry, on your question, what I'm talking about on that is when you're, okay, this was a nice thrust up, so this is your first mid-band trade. That is a good trade. Okay, you're looking for that particular trade all the time. But if they don't take out that high right there by a good amount, and I don't mean like 3 ticks, then you do not want to take the next mid-band trade. Now, some of them will work, but I would highly recommend against it, because as a rule, they break support by a little bit and then they break back up some, which is what they did. And you'll see that time and time again. If you don't get fresher highs, you're looking for phantom type trades, or at least deep retracements. Okay. All right, so let's see if we can get, okay, see how it hit its head at my line anyway, right at 60. Let's see if we can get an ABC on this at all. All right, now was that an ABC? Anybody? Now, granted, I had that going too fast, so I was not able to take the trade. But see what it did? A, B, C. That was actually more of a Gartley, because usually an ABC is like A, B, and then C barely takes out A. But this is more of a Gartley, which took out A with a little bit of a vengeance, which is good. And predictor even predicted where it would be And that more than likely will be a decent little trade. Okay. Now, do you see that you could have boxed that in right where we had our box? We drew it. Matter of fact, let's see if it actually hit that support. It did, see? It hit that support. Now, we're too late to get that trade, but what I'm trying to do is, analyze it more than just, being showboat and take some trades, because we know what we're looking for when we're in that room. Now, I'm going to go to, let's see if we can get another trade if you missed this one. Let's look to the left. Now, we've already had an ABC, right? So what we'd have to do now, we'd have to have more of a pullback. And since it already checked here, I would expect it to check right there, where it kind of broke down. See what I mean? Because it's above support, and that was resistance, and now it's support. So if this was to come into this little sweet spot, like right here, out of that box, I would probably take that if I had missed this one. And we did just miss this one. Okay? So if you don't get that ABC, be careful. And again, remember that your best trades on long trades, but you can always look to the left to trade the right, because the sloppier it is, the more you're looking, at these mid bands and lower, and the more methodical it is, like say with ES, to give an example today, you might not get a mid band trade, because where is the actual support on this chart right now? Anybody? It's right there on Lightning 1. Okay? And if it breaks that top, it will be right there. So they may not, if they don't break Lightning 1, then you don't get down to mid-band. Okay? Because as long as they're stair-stepping with these Lightning 1s and everything, you can take these support bounces. Okay? And not even wait for a mid-band. And the reason for that is because it's not zigzagging around and taking out Lightning 1. See, oil was. See how oil's literally taking out Lightning 1 all over the place. See, you had thrust, retrace, thrust, took out Lightning 1. You had this one, thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust, starts stair-stepping down, takes out Lightning 1 right across there. Okay? And you can get out of those trades just like I showed on this little chart. I've got a different one now, but same way here. If you're up nicely, put your stop here or put your stop here. If you're using Lightning 2, put your stop there. If this was to go up some more, it would come down a little bit and then pop up some more, you get another stop. Just trail your stop. Lightning is a good way to trail stops, and also trend lines too. Let's see, you got to give a few seconds to answer. Let's see, Louis. It would be Phantom then? Yeah, well, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be Phantom as far as touch line 1, but see how this actually had bars come in below line 2? That is a Phantom, yes. And that, again, is one of my favorite trades. But I really don't like trades unless you get more of that ABC, or if they break up and they, for instance, right here, if you would have nailed this trade right here, you might have gotten 7, 8 ticks. That was a legitimate trade. We just happened to miss it because it was already up 3 bars. Okay, so we were then waiting for an ABC. Now, will these type of trades work without it being an ABC? Lots of times. But you want to just be more careful, because if you pop up and you don't take out those highs, then it's not. I mean, they'll usually do a little pop up, give you a few ticks, and then right back in your face. Let's see, do you have a train or can explain how to add a trailing stop on NT8? Well, Kevin, on your question, NT8 is, we don't have Object Trader on NT8. So when I trail with like NT8 or with Object Trader, to give an example, I've got those trails just literally built in. You want to see if we can get a trade, by the way? Let's just see. It did hit where I said, so let's just take a chance on it. I'll just box it right there, and we'll take that literally if it just takes out our line with a touch +2. See if we can get anything. All right, there's touch +1. See if we get something. Now, by the way, if you don't want to take a chance on 2, do 1 if it breaks this, and then do another one if it happens to like dance off of my box or something like that. See, it already has done that though. See where I drew my box? We're pretty accurate on this trade. Let's see if we can get something. We'll try to get 10 ticks or so just so we can get on the board. Let's see. Any news on when NT8 will be ready, Jerry? I'm praying that it'll be by Christmas, not next year, this year. I'm really, really, really hoping it'll be that. No, I'm not doing live trading right now, Louis. This is just replay just to show you how this works. Okay, now let me ask a quick question too. Does anybody know how to tell where an ABC's really trying to go? Because you can tell for the most part. See your thrust. Okay, let's get it down there. Your retrace and your thrust. See there? So you can tell where an ABC is going if they're going to not just barely break. I like them where they barely break it instead. But if they do it where they do this and they break it, you can pretty much tell that they're going to do a full 100% move. Okay. We gonna get this thing or not? Let's just fast forward it a little bit. See if we can get something. Okay, there's our little trade. I put my stop just under mid-band. And that's close. Let's add one on that. Well, we're too late. Yeah, we did get one. Bazinga. Decent little trade so far, right? Now keep in mind that you should have already taken some profit because it hit target right there. Okay, now we're actually going to have to wait and see if we get a higher low. I'm going to go ahead and protect it right there. See how you can basically, let me just show you how you can tell how to keep your stop and everything on this. Let's just get this out of the way for just a minute. All right. Notice how your lightning, and let me slow this down just a minute. Notice how your lightning is, you can draw it with your lightning key here. Okay, that's your identified swing right there. Okay. That's my identified swing right this very moment. Now, if I was up nicely like this, I would probably, with this touching that top, more than likely take one off. You can just simply sell it like that. Okay, and then ride your runner. Is that lightning 1 or 2? That's lightning 1 right there, Gene. I'll do lightning 2 on it too, so you can see it. Let's draw it from down here. See, lightning 2, you had a high, you had a low, you had the same high, so that was not your identified swing. Let me draw it from down here, right here. Okay, so you have high, low, higher, high. That's your identified swing on lightning 2, and they barely wicked it. See, that's what they do. They wick them. See how they just wicked that? Matter of fact, I was trading this morning. That kind of ticked me off a little bit, but it didn't take me out because I had my stop under here. But I wasn't up here, so I got some of this chop myself this morning. See how lightning is pretty much right there now? Just like that right there. This is the way to trade Viper the right way, because if you actually look at your charts and check your swings, okay, you're going to find that you're going to do pretty good. And by the way, if you, for instance, take out like 12, let's just see. We've only got one left, so if it hits its head at 12, we'll pull it back. If it doesn't hit its head at 12, we'll leave it. Okay? Now, if you want to ride this for the gusto, you've got to actually ride lightning. Okay? So if you want to ride lightning, we don't have any choice but just go ahead and ride it. And that's what I would probably do, would be to ride it with lightning. Let's fast forward it and see where it goes. Do you see lightning again right there? Lightning may be here in just a minute. Lightning is right there. Lightning is right there now, and it took you. Okay, now, do you remember this little trade that was called in the room this morning? This was our 8 o'clock box. Now notice real quick, let me show you something here. This did an A, B, C. Okay, see your high, low, lower high, lower low. Okay, so this is a legitimate mid-band trade because it took out the high to the left. This was a legitimate mid-band trade. Does anybody remember this trade? We actually nailed this trade in the room this morning. I'm almost positive we did. Anybody remember that at about 8 o'clock? Wasn't too shabby. Now where you'd want this, remember I called this morning, we had just opened the room right there at that swing. See where your identified secondary swing is, thrust, retrace, thrust? That's like an ABC. That's your secondary identified. Now, I wouldn't probably take this right here simply because it needed to be taken right down there where that line's at. But since we missed it, I'll go ahead and take it and we'll put a nice tight stop on it. Everybody see that? This is a pretty cool way to trade, everyone. Believe me, you'll do pretty well on your trading if you just trade like this. So you wouldn't wait for phantom after an ABC, right? Because you had a higher, right? Yeah, you had a. See, Louis, if you look at, let's look at this chart instead right here, and let's get rid of lightning too, so it's not confusing. All right. Is that a higher high than that one right there? The answer is yes, right? So if you get a mid-band type trade, let's just draw it. Lightning one. Lightning one. See, this is now this. Could you short this? You can actually short anytime you want if you just simply go with, like a 1-2 breaks the support area, and you want to try for little trades like that. Just keep in mind you won't be trading the colors. Okay, but there are trades that you can take. But is this actually coming down to where you would probably want this trade to begin with? There's 60 right there to the left. Could you box this in? And let's see what it did, just for the fun of it. We'll just leave lightning one on. Held there. Now, if you put your stop too tight, see how it held this one right here? This one right here? That probably is a wick right there. That's why you got to get in the habit of really, kind of lagging your stops back a little bit, especially with lightning one. Let me show you lightning two on the same trade. Let's draw it. See the difference? You had your swing, ABC, higher low, ABC, not a higher high. So ABC, that's pretty much your swings right through there. And looks to me like it's coming back for another retracement. And that was about 9 o'clock in the morning right there. Now, does anybody remember these trades right here? Let's look at the chart. See how that bounced right there? Let's look at it. So it ratcheted up. That was a nice trade right there. See if they'll come down and give us another trade. Predictor says right there. I'm going to take that. Just bounced off support. And put a stop in just underneath the swing. Notice I just took one, by the way. You're going to get me? Not yet. Let's get rid of lightning one. Let's see if we can see lightning two. So lightning two, right this very second, has a swing right there. look to the left to trade the right, I'd probably put it just underneath that one because see, they're trying to bounce off of it. And keep in mind, I'm going like 500 times. So I'm just trying to draw this in real time, even with it going 500 times. Now notice we're flat because we hit a target, but that's okay. Draw your lines on your chart. Got resistance right up there at 24. Now usually when I see this, I'll go ahead and bring my stop a little bit closer, like right here. Hope I didn't run out of data. See, stopped right there, and it took it out. All right, so that's one trade. Now, could you take this again? You know, for instance, let's see that. Now that didn't ratchet up, so I'd be a little bit more leery of this. But if they did take out resistance, like right there where that resistance is right there, I'd probably take that. Because it is coming to mid-band, and you can box in a mid-band trade. Just be very, very careful with them because, see here, you have a high, you have a low, you have a higher high. So this is your identified, what we call lightning 3. It should bounce there. See it? If it doesn't take this out, then they could still head up. So I would probably do something like that, put a nice tight stop on it. Just write it predictor. For now, we do 4 ticks because I don't trust it totally. But if you boxed it, you could also box it too by doing your region like so, and bring your box down. And do something like that. Touch +2 is fine. See what it did. This really went slow in the afternoon. Did anybody trade this a little bit later? It definitely went slow. It's already paused. I ran out of data. I ran my data earlier. So anyway, you could clearly see that we got some decent trades by just simply drawing on our chart. Okay, now I want to go back over the trades that I actually physically called in the room this morning so that everybody can see that we did know where the trade was set up and everything. And let's diagnose them. All right, so we didn't open the room till 8 a.m. So I'm going to draw a line right here on my chart. Because even though, you know, I didn't get here because I wasn't up at 5 o'clock in the morning this morning. But this little trade right here, I did get. See, that was around 7. That's unreal how long that was. That was almost 2 hours. Yeah, right at 2 hours. But anyway, we didn't open the room, though, until here. Okay? Now, does anybody remember what we talked about in the room this morning? When the market opened, it had already done this. You do not want to chase this trade right here unless, if you do, you don't let it go against you. Okay? But we were looking for a retrace, so we draw on our charts, right? So we see support is right here. We see support is right here on this chart right there. All right, and then we watch for a pullback. And what did it do? It pulled right back into mid-band, and this trade was called in real time with this line drawn on the chart. It had ratcheted up. It was a legitimate mid-band trade, and we nailed that trade. Matter of fact, if I remember right, I called it out at 25, wasn't it? 24? I don't remember exactly where we had it, 23, but we had a line drawn on the chart. And now one thing, if you see sideways movement on your instruments, when it hits resistance and you want to go ahead and get out of that trade, that's sometimes better than waiting for it to come down and think it's going to go up 100 ticks, because they don't. You know, that's why there are so few trades like this with ES, to give an example. Like right here, this just doesn't happen that often, okay, where you just get these monster moves like this. It's more like what oil did today. You know, you draw your lines on your chart. If it takes out 23 and goes to 25 and comes back below it, well, guess where you could get out of the trade? You could box it, like right across here. You could say, you know what? If they actually do a candle up and a candle down, that's like a 1, 2, 3. It broke on that bar right there. Okay, now granted, you still gave away 12 ticks, but that is lightning right there. Let me show you. Lightning is really important in our way of trading. And that didn't even draw it. So you got to do it more like this in your mind instead. Because remember, even Lightning 1 is looking for swings. So what I look for is like a down, down, up. And then I kind of draw it like that. And then if it breaks that, that's pretty much doing an ABC, isn't it? And you can get out of that trade rather than waiting all the way down, you know, for it to come all the way back to your cost. Now, we did also call this trade here, if you remember right in the room this morning. And some of us actually even kept this trade from way up here with one contract, or you just got back in it. Okay? Now, if you'll notice that oil, matter of fact, let me just bring the real data in just real quick, and let's see what oil's even doing now. See if this diagnoses out just like it did. We'll go ahead and do. Bear with me a second. I gotta turn this data off, and we'll turn the other data on. Bear with it a second. It's loading. It was not what I'd consider a great day to trade crude oil. Let's see who said that. PB, on your question. Yeah, it wasn't what I'd call a great day to trade it, but look at this right here even. See how they just took out that support right there, just barely? So if you were a trader this time of night, could you have actually bought that at 60.04? Yes, because it took out resistance. And what did it actually do? It did an A, a B, and a C. Now, granted, it didn't take out the highs, so you got to be careful with this one. But if you didn't already get it at 04, I wouldn't go chasing this thing around. But doesn't this work, you know, pretty much every single day in that room to polish your skills and, you know, make you into even a better trader without having to learn everything out there and analyze a chart until you're blue in the face and then you miss the best trades on the planet? Because it's easy to miss trades. You know, to give an example, let's go to gold real quick. All right. Remember gold this morning? Gold at like 8 o'clock was a very, very good trade, you know, for our people. And you had a line drawn like right here at the time. And this was 8:30. This thing did a nice little pop up. It was a beautiful trade, you know, and then it hit its head. Where would you get out of this trade? Anybody? If you draw your lightning, you'll see it. Let's draw it. Come on, draw. All right, so you're looking at this chart. You have a high, you have a low, you have a higher high. Now, granted, this was straight up, so this is a deeper stop than I normally like. But let's just say you used it anyway. If you got in way down here where it was called and got out right there with your runner, you still did good, okay? Because this thing literally broke down. And if I remember right, Charles said he shorted 83.60. And I'm pretty sure why he did that was something like this right here. Because it topped out, and he was watching his correlations too. Not a bad move. I, you know, handed it to him on that. That was a good trade. It was a little gutsier than I personally liked because I like to stay with the trend. Now, when it broke 81.20 and kissed it, see there? That was a good time to short it. Okay? Notice how it just kissed that line again and went down. You know, there's just opportunity after opportunity to trade, and we've just got to catch them, and we do catch them. If you look at ES, to give an example, this trade was called in the room, and I'm going to redraw it, and then we're going to wrap. Well, I've actually got 10 more minutes. Sorry about that. We won't wrap that early. Let's draw 8:30. And we were actually had a line drawn on the chart, if anybody remembers, right there. Okay, so some of our people got that trade early. Okay, nice little pop right above that. And I even mentioned in the room, if you box this in, okay, and this was in real time, I said, you know, we either wait for a retracement all the way down to here, which might not happen, or you box it in and you take the trade. Okay, so if you box it and you draw your lines on your chart, it popped out of the box, it went back in the box, and we called this trade again, if I remember right, just right there off that line. And of course, ES just went up like a big dog. It even kissed the box again. Okay, so you know, you don't have to be afraid to take a trade like this when they're really running. What you've got to be careful of taking a trade like the larger boxes. You know, for instance, if let me see if I can find a larger box that doesn't work, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Now here's an example of one right here, a little bit. See, let's say that you had seen this at 8:51 in the morning and you took this big box. Now granted, it did give you some coin, but if it went back in the box, you stopped out. Okay, so that one didn't do a thrust, pull back into the box, and then take off. That's why I don't like big boxes. Now when you can draw a consolidation patch like this right here, that is a classic Viper trade right there, and that's trading Viper the right way too. Now, if that box was like big old 12, 14 ticks and that box was like huge, instead, you know, something like that, to give an example, I wouldn't have touched that trade. But this trade was called live in the room, and when you can get a nice consolidation patch like that, that's called boxing it in. Let's see, Louis Gear, it's something I only traded oil. When I look at ES, it looks so strange. Well, keep in mind that if you trade ES, you got to train your mind to really, you know, see the trades in ES just like you do oil. Okay, did anybody have any questions on what I went over so far? How do you set NT to put the lines, etc., perfectly on the candles? How are your settings for that? Well, that's me drawing it, Sebastian, on your question. You know, here's, if this wasn't this time of night, is that actually a trade right there? You know, it went into the phantom area. Is this actually a little long trade? Well, if a person took it, they already got some coin, and then you don't let it go against you. You don't know if it's going to break down. Nobody knows if it's going to break down. But if you draw on your charts and you said, you know what, if that comes down that phantom area and I see the support over here, then I'm going to take that trade. Well, you should already be in it. Now, granted, I don't do it this time of night. Let's see, any other questions? Let me see. Right, just a little bit ago, Kevin, I was just strictly using that lightning indicator. You know, lightning is really good. You know, for instance, let's say that you were in this trade on ES, okay? And you can, okay, let's say you got in right here even where we talked about it being on top of that box earlier today. See how it's doing a little thrust up, a little retrace, double tops here, still stays in it, barely takes out that swing, heads up some more. You get a double top again, it takes out the swing. You get out of the trade. So for instance, and if I remember right, I know Charles got out a little bit earlier on this because he wanted to really protect his coin. It was before 10 o'clock when we closed the room down. I think this wicked him right here, if I remember right. Yeah. But see, you don't have to hold, you know, for instance, like if you got in here where it was called this morning, let's just bring this all the way across. This is all the way 8 hours later, almost, well, long, even further than that. You don't want to hold this thing literally all the way down in here, or even in the mid-band, in my personal opinion. Because let's say that you had gotten all the way to 3202.50. When did this start stair-stepping back down and take out for sure the swing on the left? Well, double top, so that one's not identified. This is identified right there. And see, they even took it out right there. So you have to, at some point or another, say that it's not going to go up any higher without taking me out, and you got to get out. Okay? But see, I see it like here. See how this barely took out that high there? Just barely. You can put your stop just under here even. And I'm pretty sure that that's where a lot of our people probably actually ended up getting out. Okay? So what does everybody think? You want to trade the right way tomorrow and use your lightning and see these trades in real time? Because, phantom trades, mid-band trades, and always look, for instance, like ES right now, you could simply draw on your chart, say, okay, there's the high. Here's kind of a low at 8:30 in the morning. So this is pretty much the range ES is in. Okay. So if you were to take this like on a little break, or let's say you took line 2 here, then looking to the left to trade the right, you have resistance right there, which they just kissed. See it? You have resistance right there, which they haven't, well, they kissed it too. You got resistance there, which they have not gotten to yet. Okay. And if they don't start taking out these resistance and everything, they may not take out these highs tomorrow. But when you're trading sideways, just like we did with oil, you've got to level set your expectations that, for instance, if they were to come up here and kiss 32 even off this little trade off of line 2 without taking us out, and then they didn't take it out and keep on trucking, that's good resistance. That's just like oil this morning. So if you got this trade from line 2 to line 6, you'd probably want to protect your coin. Is YM a legitimate mid-band trade right now? Let's look at it. Hopefully I can load YM. YM's got a lot of bars. Yeah, I loaded it. No, this was a phantom trade, Randy, on your question. Now, is this actually a legitimate, the way it's starting to stair step to head up? You could definitely box this in and give it a shot like this. But this is not a mid-band long at all. This could be a mid-band short, but it's already been a phantom short. See, this is a trade we teach, is this line 1 phantom right here. Or line 7, pardon me. Okay, that's line 7 right there where the top of my box is. Right there. Did you get that phantom, Kurt? Yeah, that's a 10-tick trade. That's not bad. And, YM's actually been heading down, but the overall is still to the upside. You have a high, you have a low, you got big stair stepping up. They've taken out swings, obviously, so changed our background and all. But who knows, tomorrow this could be nothing but a decent retracement as far as that goes, because that's been a huge move up. So I'd check the fib on it myself, because that looks like about maybe a 38% retracement on that big move. Okay. Let's do this in the morning, though, because keep in mind that when these trades were called this morning in the room, they did work. Oil just didn't give us much money this morning, but it did work. I called, if I remember right, 1, 2, 3 trades in oil this morning, and we nailed the targets on every single one of them. Okay? Hope everybody enjoyed this. I hope this helps you to trade even better, because this is exactly the way we trade this system. And does occasional trade not work out? Absolutely. Should you actually go long yet on this thing? I don't think so myself, because all they did is see you had a thrust, retrace, thrust. They checked resistance right across there. They rejected it, and they could be heading down again. The people that took phantom are already taking profit, but if this does start to get a little higher and then go down and get a higher low and then pop up, they could easily change trends. But for right now, you're just looking at phantom. All right, I hope this helped. Thanks everybody for coming, and I'd be more than happy to show you mine today. I literally, didn't even get to a grand. It was just not that kind of a day. I didn't trade multiple contracts on ES. I think Charles may have jumped in 4. I don't trust 4 at the open of the market. It just, you can get hurt with 4 if you're watching it really close. But keep in mind that I'm also moderating that room, trying to draw on those charts and everything. So if I get in, anything that whips sideways with 4 contracts, they could nail me for a $500 bill in a heartbeat. And I don't let them do that because it is trading real money, and I've showed it. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the morning. This will be posted and up on the site probably within the next 30, 40 minutes. Good night.